Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today I am talking about Brujo by William Relling Jr. This is from Tor, and this is a retro review. You can tell that I got this used because it's all kind of beat up. This book is from, let's find that copyright, 1986. And in this book, there's the small island of Santa Catalina, and let's see, is it going to give me, yes, Trevor Baldwin and his 6-year-old son Mark are going to Santa Catalina Island for the weekend, and some terrible things are going to happen. That's your nutshell right there. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and read the back cover copy so that I can keep myself from being accused of spoilers. I don't know. Santa Catalina Island is a peaceful, colorful resort, the perfect weekend vacation spot for Trevor Baldwin and his young son Mark. They don't know that the spirit of the last Indian shaman has been disturbed by condominium excavation, that the Brujo has awakened and looked upon his land despoiled by the white man and is enraged. He will have his revenge, for his power is undimmed by death. Within hours, Santa Catalina becomes a killing ground as the forces of nature rise up to destroy the works of man, and Mark Baldwin's soul is the survivor's last defense. Brujo. All right, so based on that, and one of the reasons I wanted to read that is that I don't think I'm the person to discuss whether or not the story is, I just had the word and it slipped my mind. So let's just say troubling as far as the indigenous representation. I'm not a scholar. I just want to read and have a good time. So I'm not going to get into that aspect of the story or whether or not this should be, I'm not going to say don't read this book because it's insulting to Native Americans. I don't know that it is. So, with all of that being said, the too long didn't watch is I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really liked this book. Now, that may be because I was pleasantly surprised when I pulled this off the shelf for my sort of paperbacks from hell October reading, even though you're probably going to see this in December or January, and maybe November. I did not reread the back cover copy from when I bought it years ago. And so the part where it says Santa Catalina becomes a killing ground as the forces of nature rise up to destroy the works, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't reread that part, and so I didn't realize that this book falls into my favorite horror subgenre. Those who know, if you know, you know, as they say. I'm not going to get specific about what that is. But I was incredibly pleasantly surprised when certain things started happening, and I realized it was going to be that kind of book. So the writing, very straightforward, no problems with the writing. The characters are interesting. One of the blurbs on the front cover mentions Kuntz and King, and I could see that, I think, for me anyway. Again, not an expert, not a scholar, but in the way that William Relling Jr. will introduce sort of the cannon fodder characters, for lack of a better way to put it, and give us quite a bit of backstory, relatively speaking. This isn't some giant, Stephen King-sized book, but we do get a decent amount of characterization and backstory for characters that'll soon be dead. And we get a little more characterization and backstory for the characters that are going to last a little longer. So we get, excuse me, I think we start right off with the Brujo waking up. And basically, he was an Indian shaman. Or we actually start with history of Santa Catalina Island. And that you had these indigenous peoples. They met the Spanish, and the Spanish treated them just fine. But eventually, other people came to the island, and the natives of the island were wiped out. And the Brujo tried to fight them off, was tortured, and buried alive. That's like 200 years ago. So we get all that information, and then the Brujo wakes up, and the shit hits the fan. And then Trevor Baldwin works in construction, has his own business, and a customer of his, friend of his, calls him and says, "Hey, come out to Santa Catalina for the weekend. I have a job that I'd like you to take. Come out and check it out. Decide if you want to work on this project." And so Trevor's like, "Yeah, I'll bring my kid. I'm going to bring my girlfriend. And we'll make a weekend of it on this sort of resort island." But as that's going on, we're meeting other people and bad things are happening. And it moves at a good pace. There's lots of crazy horror stuff going on, and it escalates. And the crazy thing is, how do I put this? William Relling Jr. was able to make me feel sympathy, empathy, a little heartbreak for characters that aren't necessarily going to be considered good characters. So, I mean, to me, that's good writing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's a well-written, exciting, possibly problematic, but I'm not the person to address that, novel from 1986. Brujo, William Relling Jr. I definitely want to find more of his work. Unfortunately, when I looked him up, apparently he killed himself in a year that I don't remember. I apologize for that. Which is tragic, and I didn't want to dig any further into why or anything else. I don't know. It's a sad thing that happened, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't know. It seems invasive. But anyway, all right, that's all. But I would like to find more of his work. Unfortunately, he's not around to create any more, and it is tragic. But we still have the things that he did before he died. So Brujo, William Relling Jr., 4 out of 5 stars, retro review. I really, really enjoyed this. And as far as the problematic elements, again, that's for others to determine. Well, that's the question for this video. The Native American taking revenge from beyond the grave is a horror trope. And a lot of people, some people, I don't know how many people, see it as problematic, especially the whole, we've built on an Indian burial ground kind of thing, which I can see why some people find that problematic. It's taking but I was going to say it's taking essentially real people and making them the villains of these horror stories, but I don't always see them as the villain. I guess the problem is they tend to vent their rage on the people that aren't necessarily responsible. That makes them the villains. But what do you have any thoughts on this trope, on whether or not it's problematic? I know some people will just say, not necessarily in my comments, just in the world, will say, it's just fiction. Just read it and enjoy it, or don't enjoy it, but quit complaining about it. It's fiction. It's not hurting anybody. But I understand that it can, because people read it. Unfortunately, there are people that will read things and simply accept, oh, well, these are just savages. Look at what they're doing in this book. It's negative representation. Excuse me. So, what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts? Do you not care? I think, personally, in this particular book, I don't know that it's negative reputation. Anytime we hear about the indigenous peoples of the island previous to the events of this book, they are represented, I think, very well. And what happens to them is a tragedy. Then we get into the trope of the evil Native American spirit coming back for revenge. So that could be considered the problematic part. I don't know. But I think this is a good reason for reading diversely. Read books written by indigenous peoples, such as Stephen Graham Jones, Owl Going Back, Marsheila Rockwell. If you watched my recent book haul video, I recently got the book. I have to look up just to make sure I have the title exactly right. I believe it's Never Whistle at Night. I have a picture of it somewhere. I'm looking it up on my phone. Here we go. Yes. Never Whistle at Night, an Indigenous Dark Fiction Anthology, edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. So I think with an introduction by Stephen Graham Jones. Whoops. Yeah, let's drop my phone. See if we can get that to... that shows up pretty nicely. There's the book, for those who didn't see the book haul. So I think, personally, I think it's important to read diversely, read things like this, get the perspective of different diverse authors to perhaps offset what could be considered problematic negative tropes in horror, in fiction. But as I said, I don't know that I'm the person to address these things. So, what are your thoughts? Did any of this make any sense? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH5757. And if you're at Blue Sky, I am @ELSmith. That's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.